Hey guys, happy Wednesday. I hope the weather there, wherever you are, is better than it is here because it's not been very good here. It's like cold and windy and bleh, and I feel really grubby today, and there's all that happening. But I get to talk to you, so that makes me happy. So, don't know if you saw this, but I found Owen. So I have both of my Owens now. This was the first Owen. This one right here. The first Owen. And it was the new Owen. So now I have two Owens. And Owen Bowl, I wanted to tell you that there is another Owen besides the 5 we talked about today. There is Owen Prather, who is my cousin Casey's little boy. And he is on the list for these stories. So there are 2 Owens that are listening to me read you a story. So that makes 6 Owens that you know. That's pretty cool. All right, so I was going to sit back on the couch, but I don't think that's going to work. There. So today we're going to read about Thumbelina. Thumbelina is a really old story, just like Pinocchio was an old story. And I don't know how long this is, so if it's too long, we might do it like we did Pinocchio and do 2 parts, but we'll see. I'm going to close the curtain. Hang on a second. There, that's better. It was very bright. So, there's the picture of Thumbelina. She's very, very small. Once there was a tiny, tiny girl. Close this too. She was sweet and pretty and no taller than your thumb. So Thumbelina was her name. Every night, Thumbelina slept in a bed made from a walnut shell. Do you know what a walnut shell is? Walnuts are nuts, and the walnut shell's about this big. About that big. With a violet petal mattress and a rose leaf coverlet. Every day, Thumbelina played in a small garden where she rode her tulip petal boat from side to side on a tiny lake. She made a most charming sight, and as she went along, she sang in the sweetest little voice you've ever heard. So she's rowing in her walnut shell on the water, and she's singing. One night, as Thumbelina lay sleeping in her pretty bed, a great ugly toad came hopping by and saw the lovely maiden. She would make just the wife for my son, thought the toad, so she snatched up Thumbelina and hopped back to her home in the middle of a muddy bank of a brook. She put the sleeping Thumbelina on a water lily leaf. So she's just sleeping, minding her own business. And this toad came and decided to take her away. Not nice. Oh. Aw, look how unhappy she is. In the morning, when poor Thumbelina woke up and saw where she was, she cried most bitterly. The big green leaf had water all around it, so she could not possibly escape. The little fishes that swam in the water below heard Thumbelina crying. They caught sight of the ugly toad and knew what she had in mind. So they swarmed around the tough green stalk that held Thumbelina's leaf and gnawed it. You know what gnaw means? It means chew. Gnawed it through with their teeth. Then, with Thumbelina on it, the leaf floated down the brook, far from the toad and her son. So that's the fish in the water going down under where the water lily leaf was and setting Thumbelina free. At last the leaf boat swirled to a stop against a mossy bank in a strange forest world. All through the summer, Thumbelina lived quite alone in that enormous wood. From blades of grass she wove a bed. This she hung neatly under a large leaf, which sheltered her from the rain. For food, she had honey from the flowers. For drink, the morning dew on the leaves. And so she passed the summer and the fall. There she is. She's making a little home for herself out in the forest. Then came winter, the bitter winter. All the birds flew away. The flowers withered. The leaf under which she had lived shriveled up and turned to a faded yellow. As Thumbelina searched for a new shelter, it began to snow. I hear it's snowing in Michigan today. And every time a snowflake fell on her, it was as if a whole shovelful were thrown on one of us. So delicate and tiny was she. She was little bitty. Remember how small she was? As big as your thumb. I don't know if it's my thumb or your thumb. Your thumb is smaller. At last, on the fringe of the woods, she came to a field mouse's door. "You poor thing," said the kindly mouse when she found Thumbelina shivering at the door. "Come into my warm room and have a bite with me." The mouse took a liking to Thumbelina at once and invited her to stay for the winter. "Just so you keep my rooms tidy and tell me stories," she said. Thumbelina happily agreed. There's Thumbelina and the field mouse. She's going to live with the field mouse now. In the evenings, the field mouse's neighbor often came to call. He was a tiresome old mole. "But his house is even snugger than mine," the mouse said, "and he wears such a lovely black velvet coat. If only you could get him for a husband, you'd be well off indeed." Thumbelina had no intention of marrying the mole. He couldn't bear the sunshine and flowers that Thumbelina loved so much, and he said all sorts of rude things about them. The mole is the black animal right here, not the brown animal. That's the field mouse. And there's Thumbelina. Everybody wants Thumbelina to get married. What's up with that? One day, in the long passage to the mole's house, Thumbelina found a bird. It was a swallow, numb with cold and almost dead. She wove a fine blanket of hay for the swallow and covered him with it. She brought him water and the petal of a flower and took care of him all winter long. The bird was about as big as she is. When she was not caring for the swallow, Thumbelina spent her time spinning and weaving her trousseau with the help of some spiders. For the tiresome mole had proposed to her, and the mouse decided they should be married soon. All right, I can't wait to find out what happens here. Poor Thumbelina. She grew sadder and sadder as the wedding day drew near. She would have to say goodbye to the sun and the flowers, since the mole did not care for them. When spring arrived, Thumbelina opened a hole in the roof of the passage, and the swallow stepped out into the sunshine. I guess she's getting ready to get married. How happy the swallow was to be free. Thumbelina watched him with tears in her eyes, for it was her wedding day. "Come with me, Thumbelina," begged the swallow, for he could not bear to have her marry the mole and live underground forever. "We shall fly away to warm countries where it is always summer and there are lovely flowers." She helped the bird. That's a swallow, is a kind of a bird. "Yes," said Thumbelina, "I will come with you." She climbed onto the bird's back and tied her sash firmly to his feathers. Then the swallow flew high up into the air, over lakes and forests, over mountains of everlasting snow. At last they reached the warm countries, where grapes grew on sunny walls and oranges ripened in groves. The swallow flew on. They came to an ancient palace of shining marble, which stood among green trees beside a blue lake. Here, the swallow flew down with Thumbelina. That's them together, and that's where they're going to land. Isn't it pretty there? Oh my goodness. Yes, that looks very nice, doesn't it? He placed the tiny maiden on a broad flower petal. There, in the middle of the flower, was a little man, no bigger than Thumbelina. He was the king of the spirits of the flowers. My, how handsome he is, thought Thumbelina. The little king was equally enchanted at the sight of Thumbelina. He asked her what her name might be, and if she would be his wife. So, looks like this guy is a better idea than that mole was, right? Besides, they're the same size, so that's a good thing. Yes, I will, said Thumbelina shyly. So the king took the crown from his own head and placed it on hers. At that moment, from every flower, a tiny lady or gentleman appeared, bringing a gift for the new queen. Her favorite gift of all was a pair of beautiful wings from a white butterfly. These were fastened to her back so she could fly from flower to flower. Wow, she gets to be a queen, and she has a handsome king, and she gets wings so she can fly, and she gets a lot of presents. Not too bad. Such rejoicing there was then. And flying close to the happy couple was the swallow, who sang for their happiness with all his loving heart. So, you see the bird? That's her friend that she rescued. So she was nice to the swallow, the bird, and then he was able to rescue her and take her someplace that she really wanted to be and where she would be happy. So, that's a good story, right? And she was very small. Why she was called Thumbelina. Thumbelina. So, I hope everybody has a good day. And let me know what you're doing. And if anything fun's going on with you, I love you so, so much. I'll talk to you later. Bye.